People who closely follow the situation in the Middle East know the past few days have truly been a turning point, right? The escalation has reached the streets, said a diplomatic source, commenting on Monday's attacks when Iranian missiles hit the Israeli cities of Tel Aviv and Haifa. What Israel was used to seeing, coldly, happen in neighboring countries is now happening on its own soil. These were real missiles destroying homes, taking lives, and reigniting fear even among G7 leaders that this regional war could turn into a much larger-scale conflict in the Middle East. According to the emergency service Magen David Adom, MDA, 4 people died in the attacks, 2 women, 2 men, all around 70 years old. Additionally, about 87 people were injured, and that's just from attacks in 4 areas of central Israel. In Petah Tikva, near Tel Aviv, authorities confirmed that missiles struck a residential building. The footage shows blackened walls, shattered windows, and destroyed apartments. In the north port city of Haifa, search and rescue operations continue. According to emergency teams, around 30 people were injured. Local media reports say there were fires at a power plant near the port, which is already beginning to broadly affect civilian infrastructure. According to Iran's Revolutionary Guard, this operation used a new method that supposedly confused Israel's defense systems. In other words, Israel's missile defense shield allegedly turned against itself. Well, we don't yet have a way to verify that claim, and the Israeli military hasn't commented. But it's worth remembering that Israel's own defense authorities previously warned that their system isn't 100% foolproof. In these attacks, effectiveness based on incoming info would be around 93%, which would be very costly for Iran to sustain for a long time, but the retaliation cycles continue. Still on Sunday, Israel carried out an airstrike that, according to the state agency IRNA, killed the IRGC's intelligence chief, Mohammad Kazemi, along with 2 other officers. And Israel's response intensified in the early hours of this Monday. Footage circulating in Tehran showed a sky lit by explosions, especially after attacks on Iranian oil and gas facilities. Reports say a fuel depot was hit. Israeli authorities claimed that 18 people died inside Israel in earlier attacks, including children. On the Iranian side, the health ministry reported around 224 deaths, 90% of whom were civilians. Now shifting to the diplomatic corps, G7 leaders met in the Canadian Rocky Mountains, and as expected, this Israel-Iran conflict topped the agenda. Before flying out to the meeting, Trump was asked what the United States would do to try to curb the escalation. He responded, "I hope there's a deal. Sometimes they need to fight it out to the end." That statement, in my view, tries to distance himself while still being fully involved, right? I'm not sure if you understand what I'm trying to convey. Meanwhile, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz didn't jump on Trump's simplistic theory. He said his goals at the G7 include ensuring Iran doesn't develop nuclear weapons, preserving Israel's right to defend itself, avoiding greater escalation, and at the same time opening space for diplomacy. Now, according to sources cited by Reuters, Iran has already told mediators from Qatar and Oman that it won't negotiate a ceasefire while under Israeli attack, so any truce is off the table for now. Another piece of intel being circulated is that Trump allegedly vetoed an Israeli plan to assassinate Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. And when Fox News asked Netanyahu about it, he responded, "Oh, so many fake news stories about conversations that never happened, and I won't comment on that subject." Before we finish, let's update the numbers. The situation remains severe and the human toll is rising on both sides. So far, Israeli authorities say the total death toll in Israel has risen to 24 people, all civilians. According to Iranian state media, Farabi Hospital and its surroundings in Kermanshah province in western Iran were hit by missiles, raising concerns about possible violations of international humanitarian law, especially regarding the protection of medical facilities in conflict zones. As you know, that's something that doesn't seem to bother Netanyahu much, as we've seen in Gaza. In Israel, we continue monitoring the situation in Haifa, where search and rescue remain intense. As mentioned earlier, around 30 people were injured there, and videos circulating today show fires at an energy plant near the city port, an infrastructure target that, beyond physical damage, has direct consequences on daily life. The visual escalation of attacks became even more evident in the past hours. Images show missiles crossing the skies over Tel Aviv and explosions heard even over Jerusalem, demonstrating the breadth of the Iranian offensive. One of the most worrying incidents happened in a densely populated Tel Aviv neighborhood where several residential buildings were destroyed. The blast was so powerful that glass panes in nearby hotels and houses, including near the U.S. Embassy, were completely shattered. On that note, the U.S. ambassador stated that the embassy building suffered only minor damage, with no injuries among staff. But even so, it's a powerful symbol, an explosion close to an American diplomatic mission on Israeli soil, a sign of how the situation is approaching areas that, in theory, should be outside the direct theater of war. You can see how rapidly things change. Considering Trump's speech a month ago in Riyadh, we commented in one of our videos, he said back then, the dawn of a new day for the Middle East. He even said, for the first time in 1,000 years, the world will look to the Middle East not as a place of war, but as a land of opportunity. My friends, but recent events point in the exact opposite direction. Netanyahu, who narrowly escaped a no-confidence vote in the Israeli parliament last week, now seems to have found renewed political strength. In Batiyah, where Iranian missiles killed 10 civilians, he said, "We are in the middle of an existential fight that all Israeli citizens understand." In an interview with Fox News, he suggested the current military campaign could even lead to the fall of the Iranian regime, claiming that Iran is, according to him, very weakened. On the Iranian side, the response has been calculated. According to the regime-linked SNN channel, new attacks are allegedly being planned against Israeli refineries, ports, power plants, and pipelines. Their goal, they say, is to completely paralyze the Israeli economy. As for Iran's own energy infrastructure, the government's assessment is that it would withstand better, since the country doesn't rely on imports and has ample fuel reserves. China also spoke up. China said using force is not the path to lasting peace and requested immediate efforts from all parties to de-escalate tensions. Speaking of diplomacy, Iran's foreign ministry said this Monday that Parliament is preparing a bill to withdraw the country from the 1968 Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT. As you know, this treaty guarantees the peaceful use of nuclear energy in exchange for commitment not to develop nuclear weapons and cooperation with the IAEA. Israel, as you also know, never signed the NPT and is widely considered, though it doesn't confirm, to be one of the only countries in the region with nuclear arms. According to Iranian spokesperson Ismail Baghai, last week's Israeli attack was encouraged by the IAEA-approved resolution that accused Iran of violating its treaty obligations. According to Baghai, those who voted for that resolution paved the way for this attack. As for the potential NPT withdrawal, he said there's not yet a final decision, but recent developments naturally affect the state's strategic decisions. At the same time, President Pezeshkian reaffirmed that the country remains opposed to using nuclear weapons, also citing the religious decree by Ayatollah Ali Khamenei that prohibits such armament. That's all from us. If you found this video helpful, leave a comment, share it on your social media, give it a like, and of course, if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss upcoming videos. Okay, folks? A big hug from Professor Arão Alves.